touchdown.
We need to be able to execute the fundamentals on offense, defense, and special teams.
Pressure coming, sack. Kevin Snyder, team on the late blitz.
And then do it over and over and over again.
They're coming, it's blocked. They got it.
Because the team that does it better is usually the team that wins.
Live from Brother Jimmy's on Easton Avenue in New Brunswick, this is the Kyle Flood Show. Your chance to talk with the head coach of the Scarlet Knights. The Kyle Flood Show is brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world. Pepsi, live in the moment. The beat starts at Pepsi.com. Pepsi, live for now. UPS, to learn how UPS can put the power of logistics to work for you, visit thenewlogistics.com. To be a part of the show, call 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. Now, let's go live to Brother Jimmy's in New Brunswick. Alongside Coach Flood, here's Chris Carlin.
Welcome, everybody. It is another edition of the Kyle Flood Show right here at Brother Jimmy's in downtown New Brunswick. Chris Carlin, Eric LeGrin, Coach Flood here in attendance. We want you to be a part of the program at 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. You can tweet us your questions at @OurFootball. And, of course, if you're here in attendance at Brother Jimmy's, come on up front, and we'll get you set to ask your question live on ScarletKnights.com and on 1450 WCTC. I understand that I really was not missed last week.
Well, I got to tell you, I enjoy the way you open the show, but I don't know that anybody can open the show quite like Eric LeGrand.
That's a fair point.
Hey, I was trying, Chris, trying to hold, step up to the big game, man.
Well, I heard everything went pretty well, and I appreciate you taking control for me for a little bit, along with Mark Malusis as well. And we've got plenty to discuss over the next hours. Got some academic achievements for the Scarlet Knights that are pretty darn impressive. We also have some special honorary captains for this week's game as Rutgers hosts Wisconsin. We'll talk about that matchup with Gary Anderson's team, and we will talk whatever you want to talk about Rutgers football. As we said, give us a call at 855-FLOOD-44, 855-356-6344. We've already got some questions on Twitter. Coach, let's start with your thoughts from this past week. Back end of the double dip to the Midwest, Ohio State and then Nebraska. You fall 42-24 to the Cornhuskers. What did you take out of the game?
You know, if you look at it as a collection of games, those two games on the road against, really fine top, I think 15 or 16 football teams in the country, we're certainly not happy with the result. We want to play better. We want to compete better. We want to be 1-0. That's the goal each week. But I'm going to repeat what I said after the game. I think it was a tremendous experience for our football program and for our players, and a lot of those players are going to get an opportunity to play against those teams again in the future. And I know in the short term and the long term, both, our program is going to be better for going through the experience of the last 2 weeks.
A lot of people ask me, seeing Amir Abdullah play, where does he rank in the backs that you've seen that when you came to Rutgers? And, I've been here since 2008. I said he probably since, we played LaShawn McCoy, Ryan Matthews, Donald Brown. I say probably the best one since I saw LaShawn McCoy out there. What would you say?
It's, I said beforehand I thought he was as good as any of the backs we'd played in the last 10 years. He certainly didn't disappoint live. He's an excellent player. It's more than just him. They're very good on offense as a group. But I do believe that. I think he's as good as any, and he probably goes in the LaShawn McCoy category because of his ability to make you miss. Yeah. That's the type of runner he is. So he's that style of running back, although he looks a little bit thicker than I think LaShawn was in in college.
Where did you feel like the biggest struggles were for your team defensively in the game?
I think when you play a running attack like that, you have to disrupt the runner before he gets to the line of scrimmage, and we just weren't able to do that. And we've got a great challenge ahead of us this week because we've got another really, really fine running back, really two fine running backs coming to town for Wisconsin, another good offensive line, tight ends and fullbacks to compete against. And we've had a good practice week. We're working hard at it. We've got a new plan against what Wisconsin does. But when you play a good runner, if you don't disrupt him before he gets to the line of scrimmage, it's going to be very hard to get him on the ground.
What did you see that impressed you with Laviano out there in that second half and some things that didn't?
Well, I was really excited about a couple things that Chris did. In an extended amount of playing time for his first time out there, he did a great job of securing the football. He didn't put the ball at risk, and that's the first thing. That's the most important thing. And then the next thing he did was he operated very well. He got us in and out of the huddle. It was clean football. There weren't procedural penalties. I thought the players responded very well to his leadership in the huddle. He had great command on the football field. So those are things we're building on now with a new game plan. And Chris has had a good week so far. So if he ultimately becomes a starter, which we'll name later in the week, maybe even game day, we got tremendous confidence in him. And just as important, I think the players in that huddle have tremendous confidence in him after seeing him play.
I got a couple of more on Chris in just a few minutes, but the question everybody is certainly curious about, you said you probably won't name one until later in the week. How is Gary Nova?
I said on Sunday or Saturday after the game, it usually takes a couple days to get an idea. And we've had a couple days now. Sunday, Gary wasn't really able to do much. Today he was. Today he did some things. We'll probably end up naming the starter on game day. But I would tell you that Gary's moving in the right direction, and that's a positive for our football program.
And when it comes to, just your 30 years as a coach, when it comes to playing, person is hurt and injured. You remember, Coach always said different things. If you're hurt, you can't go. If you're injured, you can go out there. You can sometimes fight through it. How hard is it to make that decision with the doctors between someone who's hurt or injured?
I don't think it's that hard. For me, what I do is I look at first of all the medical staff has to tell you that player is safe to go on the field. That's the first line. It's okay. So if the medical staff tells me that, then what I have to decide as the head coach is that player able to perform on the level we need him to perform on to be competitive. So to me, it's a two-step process. The medical staff has to clear him for play, for competition. Once they clear him for competition, then it's a matter of can he do what we need him to do within the game plan. If he can, that player plays. If he can't, then he doesn't.
And from a standpoint, he actually, on the series before, got a little banged up as well. That, whatever it was that was because we know it's upper body, lower body, whatever the injury was, not concerning at this point. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, good enough. Now, let's talk about Chris Laviano just a little bit. Eric talked about him, the things that impressed you. It's funny, you come out of the gate, and here's a guy that's never played in that kind of environment before. But talk to me about when he goes out there and looks as in control as he did in that environment. How important is that for a young quarterback's growth?
I think it helps a lot. Sometimes a quarterback will go out there the first time and they don't perform real well, and I don't know that that's the be-all end-all either. You got to give them a chance to work through it. But I think what it does for somebody like Chris is going into a game like this where he may be the starting quarterback, it really helps him, and it really gives him confidence and really gives those players around him confidence. And you can see it in practice. Because like I said, Gary did some things today. Chris really took all the reps of the starting quarterback today, and Gary was able to do a couple things. But when Chris was in there, it did not feel different. And I think for the football team, this week and going forward, that's a real positive.
And as a coach, seeing him, I know a lot of the play action plays as he's scrambling out in the boots, him just tucking the ball and taking it off down the field, knowing that he can get more yards. How does that show that he's grown and learned in the system so far, even though that was really his first time getting real action out there? But him not throwing the ball and testing it down the field, but just tucking it and running and picking up 40. I think he had a 40-yard run at that one time.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I think it tells you that he's not pressing. He went through his reads, first read, second read, third read, run, and he was decisive about it. He didn't like the throws that he had, so he pulled it down. He told the guy in front of him he was going, and he took off. And Chris is a good athlete. You talk about a guy who played 3 sports in high school, was a football player, was a lacrosse player, was a basketball player, and a good athlete in all those sports at Holy Trinity High School in Long Island. So, it didn't surprise me when he took off, and it didn't surprise me he was successful when he took off.
Okay, but be honest for a minute. When he takes off and it's a 50-some-yard run, and he's making some cuts left and right. It's not necessarily going ahead and sliding like maybe you would want to see a quarterback. Was there any part of you during that run that was maybe hoping he might do that?
Well, I don't know if there was a lot of guys out there he made miss.
Well, he made a couple of nice cuts. You don't get 50 yards by accident.
He might have weaved. He might have weaved one time back into the field of play, and going forward, I don't think we'll see that.
Well, and you were talking about his decision making. I like the fact that he was very decisive. He made his read. He went to the pass, and you certainly, boy, I tell you what was impressive to me is on Monday, and talking to some of the guys, especially Caleb Johnson. You talked about the huddle, but he was in command, and there was a good sense that all right, it's not looking around and what are we doing? It is move ahead, let's go.
It really speaks to a great job by Chris of preparing. And every backup quarterback, I think, will tell you this. I don't know if they're always doing it, but you have to prepare for the game as if you were the starter. And you're not going to get the reps in practice. You're not going to get the physical reps in practice. It's just not doable. But you'll get some reps, and you have to take all the other ones mentally. And then when you're not on the field, when you're in the classroom, when you're back in the dorm room, you got to be doing everything you can to prepare for that game as if you were the starter. Chris said that he did it, and there's no doubt by judging his performance that he was doing it. And
how much easier is it for you or for your coaching staff, the QB coach, to actually, when you look at the film now, it's now Chris, looking at his mistakes and instead of looking at Gary's mistakes, trying not to make them know when he's going to go in the game. But now you get him on the film. How much easier is that now to evaluate him and see it for your coaches?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Players have to learn a lot of ways, and then sometimes it's by watching other players. Sometimes it's by watching the guy in front of them. But the most valuable learning is when you get to see yourself do it, because you know exactly what you were thinking at that moment. And if it was correct, great, it's validation. But if it wasn't, then it's something that we have to correct going forward. And when it's you doing it, it's a little bit easier to correct it.
A couple of the other individual performances in the game. Leonte Carew continues to really amaze. And, Gary made a fine play to really make something out of nothing. But then Leonte, talking about making cuts and making people miss, that was a phenomenal run on the 71-yard touchdown.
A tremendous extra effort play by Leonte and not something that surprises us. He's a guy we count on to win every week. He'll have a great challenge again this week. They've got good corners at Wisconsin, and they play a lot of man coverage. So he will have a challenge ahead of him again. But he stepped up to all those challenges throughout the season, and Leonte has proven himself to really be, not just one of the better players on our team, but really one of the better players in the conference.
I got to ask you, Coach, I never played wide receiver, but, you teach him how to read.
I'm surprised.
I got hairs, Coach. All right. But when you go thinking about when you're reading the routes, as a receiver, you're reading the coverage of the defense, and then the quarterback starts to scramble around a little bit. How hard is it for a wide receiver to settle down in certain holes of the defense and read what coverage that they're in, so you can, quarterback can get them to the right route, so you can get the ball to them?
Sure.
How hard is that?
Well, it's something that's got to be taught for sure, and I think I don't know how well understood that is to the casual, the normal fan of college or pro football, but every offense has built-in scramble rules for their particular routes. The short routes go one way, the intermediate routes go another, and then the deep routes go somewhere else. And that tries to give you some uniformity to where the eligible receivers will be. But as Chris said, a lot of times it's improvisation, and you need somebody to make a play. And Gary made a play by putting himself in position to make the throw. Leonte made a good catch and then an excellent run afterwards.
How about Robert Martin? Got 6, 7, 8 carries, 32 yards, and certainly looked decisive in his runs as well.
I like how Robert's running the ball right now. I think he's doing a good job. We felt going into the game that we needed to give him a little bit more of a workload, and we used him kind of as the spell guy in the series. So Desmond would take a series, and Robert would be the spell guy. Then Justin would take a series, Robert would be the spell guy. And that was how we did it in the last game. And we're going through the week now and devising whatever the plan will be for this week coming up. But I'm pleased with what Robert's doing right now. Again, I'll go back to what I said about Chris. He's protecting the football. That's first and foremost, because it doesn't matter if you make a great play if you give it to the other team at the end. I think he's running physically. And we need to look at some options because we need to make some plays in the running game. We finished that game, and at the running back position, we didn't have a run longer than 8 yards. And it's going to be tough for us to operate the way we want to when that's the case. So we felt like he deserved the opportunity, and he'll get a little bit more this week.
I was going to ask you that. I remember you said that earlier in the week that you only, I believe, had one run over 8 yards. How important is it to have that depth in the backfield now where you have options or certain players can get a look now that you're going out there, as you said, protecting the ball is the number one thing, but then also trying to get the ball, as you said, getting the ground game going past 8 yards.
No doubt. And it's a deep room, and Desmond, Justin, Robert, good players, good football players. But right now we're missing a little bit of what we had when PJ was there. PJ had a knack for making that big run, but PJ's not coming back this year. So we have to somehow generate those plays in the running game to play football the way we want to.
Well, we want you to be a part of the show. You can do so by giving us a call at 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. Tweet us your questions. We've got some pretty good ones already that I'm going to get to in just a few minutes at RFootball. And if you're here in attendance at Brother Jimmy's, by all means, come on up front. Ask your questions for Rutgers head coach Kyle Flood. We'll take our first time out of the night, step aside, and when we return, we'll start to talk a little bit about the Wisconsin game and special honors regarding some academics for Rutgers and also some honorary captains this week that we'd like to talk about as well. Stay with us. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
The chalkboard. Sweeps, screens. Every play is drawn up and studied. When you can visualize a play, you can execute a play. The same is true in business. The more visibility you have in your supply chain, the better your business performs. That's why UPS lets you track what comes in and what goes out. Logistics is our game. See how we can help yours at thenewlogistics.com. UPS, official logistics partner of the NCAA.
AT&T's best ever pricing for individuals and families lets you stay connected with the nation's most reliable 4G LTE network. It's easy. Just find the service plan that fits you best, including options up to 10 lines, so you can text, call, and download pretty much everywhere you go. AT&T, mobilizing your world.
AT&T is a proud partner of Rutgers Athletics.
Reliability claim based on nationwide carriers 4G LTE. 4G LTE not available everywhere.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
Looking for a place to watch all of the Rutgers football action as they head into the Big Ten? Enjoy the games with fellow Scarlet Knights fans at these Rutgers Athletics official watch party locations. New York City's Brother Jimmy's Barbecue, Hoboken's Cadillac Cantina, Tom's River's McIntyre's Pub, New Brunswick's Mike's Courtside Sports Bar and Grill, and Quaker Steak and Lube's 3 locations in Edison, Brick, and Powhatan.
Oh, what up, Rutgers? Hey, guess what? I bet you didn't know you're about to have 3 different kinds of barbecue sauce all over that sweet, sticky mug of yours. Also, bet you didn't know, down south in North Carolina, we can actually make some of the best barbecue you've ever had in your ding-dong life. So come on down to Brother Jimmy's Barbecue and put some South in your mouth. Brother Jimmy's Barbecue, located at 5 Easton Avenue, New Brunswick, New Jersey. Or check us out at brotherjimmys.com. See y'all real soon.
Back at Brother Jimmy's downtown New Brunswick for this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show. It is a 12 noon kickoff homecoming this coming Saturday when Rutgers hosts the University of Wisconsin at High Point Solution Stadium. And I've just been informed, and shame on me for not knowing this off the top of my head, but 3 years ago today, very special anniversary, wasn't it, Mr. LeGrand?
Sure was. I actually was thinking about it when I was walking on the treadmill today at therapy. You know, the anniversary of when I came out the tunnel for West Virginia, 3 years now. And I don't know what brought it to my mind, but I was just like, oh, today's 3 years since that day. And I'll never forget coming out that tunnel. You know, it was a cold, cold day, but my adrenaline was going. I was pumped up. And that's the first time since my injury I could say I almost broke down when I saw Harness crying and Brandon Jones crying. I almost lost it there, but kept myself composed, and it was just a great moment.
And, of course, that was Sports Illustrated's Moment of the Year and on the cover of SI. And, Coach, I remember Eric coming down to, I believe you were interviewing Coach Schiano that day when you found out. And Eric's mom, Karen LeGrand, who's here tonight, and she is each and every week, made sure his phone was nowhere nearby because he kept asking. He heard he was up for it. He kept asking if, in fact, he was going to get it. And the guys from SI, including their managing editor, Chris Stone, came down and presented him with the cover. Boy, that was a terrific day.
I mean, the all-time greatest tunnel shot in the history of Rutgers football
question.
right there.
No question. You with Kasim, Scott Vallone, Devin Watkins, right?
And Bo Backety was in there, too. Yeah, and going back to that story, I remember she took my phone from me up front. Sometimes I tell her to take it anyway, just put on the charger. She took it, and I wasn't thinking of anything. I said, all right, let me take a nap. I didn't realize she turned it and put it on vibrate. So it was going off, and I'm sleeping. And then I get up here and surprised, and I hate being surprised. Man. I hate it.
Well, that was definitely a pretty neat moment. Through
That's what moms are for, Eric.
Coach, let's talk about a couple of achievements here real quick. And first of all, one that came out yesterday that I think always – doesn't necessarily get the recognition it deserves, but the graduation success rate report was released by the NCAA this week for all Division I institutions, and Rutgers posted the 3rd best score among current Big Ten members. and including Northwestern at the top. But I'll tell you what, that is a 4-year measure of the freshman and transfer student athletes at each university from 2004 to 2007. We know how much success Rutgers has had on the APR, the academic progress rate. But the fact that it dates back that far, it just shows you how long that system has been in place and how successful it's been for your student athletes over this stretch.
There's no doubt, and that's something that was put in place by Greg Schiano when he first got to Rutgers, and we have a tremendous infrastructure of academic support for our student athletes. It's something we're very proud of, and there's really two ways it gets measured. The APR is kind of the real-time snapshot of how you're doing academically, and I think people know the success we've had in the APR, and then the graduation success rate is a little bit of a look at your history, your recent history, and how your student athletes have finished college. And I think both are important. It doesn't surprise me that we're achieving well in them. We expect to do well in both of those numbers. And it's really one of the things I cited when we first got into the Big Ten. And people said, what do you think of Rutgers in the Big Ten? Rutgers fits in the Big Ten because of the not just the success we've had on the field in football, but the success we've had academically. And when you're in the premier academic athletic conference in the country, a school like Rutgers fits very well academically into that.
And a lot of people don't get to see the behind-the-scenes stuff, but as you said, the structures got put into place. But how do those meetings go when you get to meet with Jenna Beverly and Scott Walkers, and just talking out how you want this to be run and how this is going to be done, and how does that stuff go?
I think there certainly has to be a tone set right from the top as the head football coach that academics are going to be important. And I'm very proud of the fact that our GPA has gone up every semester since I became the head coach, and it was in a good place when I became the head coach. But then it has to trickle down, and you have to have good people everywhere to really make it work. And Scott Walker, who presides over the academic support for the entire athletic department, and then Jenna Beverly, who really works specifically with football, and then she has a staff that includes a guy by the name of Ramel Meekins, that I know people will remember from our football program, who now works on our academic support team, a former captain for us. And we really have good people at every level of the academic support system. And I think when you see something that achieves at a high level, that's the reason. You've got the right people there, and we're very fortunate to have those people.
I want to read this one quote from Scott Walker, and as you said, he heads it up. It's in today's story from Keith Sargent on NJ.com. Here it is, quote, "There's going to be a lot more living after your sport ends, so let's understand the big picture. Even if you're fortunate enough to play professionally in whatever sport it may be, the ability to get drafted goes up if you get your degree. It's the first thing pro scouts ask. Did he or she graduate? What's their GPA? We emphasize that, and we talk about the ability to make a living after your sport is over. For 95% of the student athletes, their sport's going to be over once college is over."
There's no doubt, and there are statistics right now out there that will tell you players that graduate have a better chance of success in the NFL. There's no doubt. The people in that league, they want great athletes, but they need great athletes who are mature. They need great athletes who are intelligent. They need great athletes who are problem solvers, and all of those things are learned in the education process. And again, it's one of the reasons why I think when our players get the opportunity to go to the NFL, they generally stay there for a while.
Yeah, that reminds me of Devin McCourty when Coach Belichick said that he was the smartest coach he ever played. And, playing with Dev, watching him study and learning a lot from him, he really was a master on the field. He knew exactly what everybody was doing, and that's what his craft is. So that's what he goes and he's the best that he could be at it. And he also did graduate too.
That's right, and he's certainly having a good career for himself.
Sure is.
We're proud of him.
And one more about this. So today, Scott Walker is out of practice, and Jamal Westerman, who works on our pre- and post-game and halftime shows now, is out there watching as well. Scott comes over. What's the first question he asks him? "Have you finished your master's degree yet?" And that was the first thing that he said. And Jamal said, "Yeah." And it's interesting. It's not just about now, and it wasn't just happenstance. They keep tabs, and they stay on you a little bit too, to make sure that you're following up on your degree in every way that you can.
Absolutely, and they're part of our family. And when a recruit comes to campus, one of the things I tell them that's important is when you come to Rutgers, you need to meet everybody that's going to touch your life as a Rutgers football player, and that's certainly the head coach, the coordinator, the position coach. But you're also talking about people like Scott Walker and Jenna Beverly. Scott and Jenna, one of the things I think that makes them really good at what they do is Scott Walker is a former football coach. Jenna Beverly is a former Division I athlete playing volleyball. So they understand the time constraints that are on these student athletes, and I think they do a great job of helping them organize their days and weeks.
I'm going to throw another one at you. Sean Tucker as well, and part of the Leadership Academy, another former big-time athlete
Another former captain,
went through some injuries in college, would have been playing on Sundays, I think, if not for that. But here he is back at Rutgers and helping in that regard.
And runs the Leadership Academy, which is part of our life skills program at Rutgers, and another person who is involved in the day-to-day lives of not just our football players, but really every student athlete in the athletic department.
And I got to give a shout out to the academic department one more time, Jen, especially when I first got hurt, being able to set me up with the classes right away from January of 2011. I got hurt October 16, 2010, to finishing all the way up this past January. So the system is there. There's no reason for anybody to fail, and especially I could do it with no hands even. So it's just there for everybody.
Coach, let's get to a couple of Twitter questions. You can be a part of the show tonight by tweeting us at @RFootball, by giving us a call at 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344, or asking your question here in person. This is from Bob Cankro, and if this is what you've done, we need to have a discussion, I think. Playing Wisconsin, have you banned cheese from the training table this week?
I have not. I have not banned cheese from the training table. I actually, in my younger years, did work with somebody who grew up in Wisconsin, and he had some of the cheese curds, I believe they're called.
Yes.
Yeah, flown in, and it was interesting. It was something I had never had.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with fried cheese. I'm not going to hold that against
These weren't fried. I might have tried that. These weren't fried.
They weren't. Okay.
No, it was interesting.
I've never heard of fried cheese.
No?
Before.
Well, mozzarella sticks you've heard of, certainly.
Well, I got my cheese on my
He's
burger.
got his cheese there ready to go.
Wait for the next break.
Let's talk a little bit about Wisconsin. You were talking about the big and physical aspect of them. They have a terrific running back in Melvin Gordon, and boy, you go from Amir Abdullah to Melvin Gordon this week.
Oh yeah, and this is life in the Big Ten. There's going to be good players on every team, and Melvin's a dynamic football player, first team All Big Ten last year. They have a 2-quarterback system that's very effective for them. Joel Staub, who's more of their pro-style quarterback, a guy that people recognize the name, Tanner McAvoy, who is their hybrid quarterback, and 2 offensive tackles that were honorable mention All Big Ten last year. So they've got good football players. We got to do a great job of being detailed in what we do. I can't wait to get back in High Point Solution Stadium. After being on the road for 2 games, I can't wait for another sold out. I know technically it's not sold out, but the people I've been talking to, we're right there, and I think by the end of the week we'll be announcing another sellout. It's really exciting to get back in our home stadium and have that home field advantage working for us after being on the road in a couple tough environments the last 2 weeks.
Melvin Gordon's the type of player, he can hit the home run play at any moment of the game. How important is it? I know you say you got to get negative plays, but when they do get those little 5 to 10-yard runs, getting them on the ground so he doesn't turn those into 25, 50, 75-yard runs.
You're exactly right. I mean, he's a good football player. He's going to make some plays in the game, but you got to limit the big plays, the explosives in the game. And he's a different style runner than Amir. He's not a scat back type of guy. He's more of a slasher and a glider, but he's got enough speed to run away from you. And I think he's 217 pounds, so he's a big physical back.
Where does he? Is it the same kind of style? I mean, you just said big physical back, so I imagine so. Of the other Wisconsin running backs that we've seen over the years,
very similar. Yeah, I think very similar. I think they have a blueprint for what they're looking for in a tailback. Because even Corey, who is their backup, is a very similar size and very similar style runner.
You mentioned Tanner McAvoy. For those fans, he played in New Jersey, but his brother is Colin McAvoy, who was a terrific special teams player at Rutgers. Really did a fantastic job when he was here.
Colin was a tremendous player for us, and somebody that did a lot of different things, throughout the practice week and then on game day on special teams, and somebody who was very valuable to us.
How hard is it preparing for a 2-quarterback system?
It's tough. It's tough. It's a challenge. It's one of the things where you have to really do a great job in practice of making sure you get enough work against their base, but also enough work against their gun run stuff to, because you have to account when Tanner's in there. You have to account for the quarterback as a runner and everything they do.
More on Wisconsin coming up. We got a lot to discuss with the Scarlet Knights in this next half hour. We are on WCTC New Brunswick, 1450 AM, and of course on ScarletKnights.com for this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show. When you got your question, come on up front and get set to ask it. Our man Jim up here will get you set up. Also give us a call at 855-FLOOD-44 or tweet us at @rfootball. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
We're about living in the moment.
You know, that moment when you open a Pepsi and hear the music.
We're the doers, the shakers, the tastemakers.
The ones who dance to their own beat.
The ones who stay cool when things heat up.
Whether the party is big or small.
We're the ones who never want it to end.
The ones who can't stop.
And never will.
The beat starts at Pepsi.com. Pepsi. Live for now.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
We built the Audi A3 sedan with available features like 4G LTE Wi-Fi, cutting-edge MMI touch, industry-leading LED headlamp technology, and legendary Audi Quattro all-wheel drive. Because why settle for mediocrity when you can power past it? Stay uncompromised.
Experience luxury without compromise in the new Audi A3 with legendary Quattro all-wheel drive at your local New Jersey Audi dealer. The New Jersey Audi dealers, proud sponsors of Rutgers Athletics.
IMG College is the exclusive marketing and multimedia rights holder for Rutgers University. Through Rutgers IMG Sports Marketing, your business now has a total custom solutions provider for marketing through Rutgers athletic events. As the Scarlet Knights enter the Big Ten, now more than ever is the time to become an official partner of the Rutgers IMG Sports Network. Call Rutgers IMG Sports Marketing at 732-445-7870. Thanks for listening to the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
Back live at Brother Jimmy's in downtown New Brunswick for this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show on ScarletKnights.com and on 1450 AM WCTC in New Brunswick. Hey, fans, be sure to visit the Plymouth Rock Assurance booth before this week's Rutgers game for a chance to win seat upgrades and Rutgers merchandise. Visit I'mABigDealRU.com. That's I'mABigDealRU.com for more information. Plymouth Rock Assurance, a better way to do car insurance. Chris Carlin, Eric LeGrand, head coach Kyle Flood here at Brother Jimmy's, and this is a question we always get with the 12 noon games, but we'll get it anyway, considering it's homecoming especially. This question comes in, Coach, who is this from? This is RU Tax Esquire. All right, Coach. Can you re-emphasize the importance of fans being in their seats early and loud, given Wisconsin lost its only away game this week?
It's critical. Yeah, it's critical. And it was one of the things I took away from both of our road trips the last 2 weeks is how early the visiting crowd, the places we visited, how early their crowds were in there. And it's a huge advantage for us. We've played some night games this year, and the night games lend themselves to the crowd being in there a little bit earlier, and it creates a great atmosphere. And I'm hopeful that this week, even with the 12 noon kickoff, people have been excited enough by what they've seen already this season that they're going to be in their seats early and creating that hostile environment at High Point Solution Stadium that we need.
I was actually going to ask you, Coach, when you, because I didn't get to go on the trips, but to Nebraska and Ohio State, did you see a lot of tailgate when you were pulling up, or was there already a lot of people in the stadium when you came out for warm-ups?
Well, we get there about 2 hours and 20 minutes before kick, so we see the tailgaters kind of set up as we drive through, so there's quite a bit of that. But when we start coming out for warm-ups, you see them getting in the stands. But what I noticed was by kickoff, they were all in the stands. And when they kicked it off, they had the full crowd there. And we've had that this year so far. It's been one of the things that's been great about our environment. Now, hopefully, we can create it at a 12 noon game.
Coach, let's talk about some of your players over on the defensive side. We haven't spent a lot of time on that tonight. We're remarkably 2/3 of the way through the regular season.
So fast.
It is amazing how fast it goes. I'm going to ask you a couple of guys. You give me your instant reaction to their season, how you evaluate them. Okay. Number one, Darius Hamilton.
getting better every week. Yeah, I really believe that. And I think Darius is a guy that as he's gone through his career, he's gotten better and better. Somebody who played for us as a true freshman, so literally this is his 5th semester of college. It's hard to think of it that way because you think of him as an upperclassman and somebody with all that experience, but this is only his 5th semester of college. And he's somebody who continues to get better and somebody we count on. He's got to be one of the playmakers on our defense.
David Maluski.
One of the best leaders I've been around. Yeah, and that is, you talk about leadership by example, you talk about vocal leadership, holding people accountable, being a strong voice in the room. He is everything you want in a leader on your football program, and somebody who, has had a lot of success on the football field, and whatever his career is done, is going to have a lot of success off the football field.
Kenneth Kirksey.
Kenny's a guy in the middle, kind of an unsung hero of our defense, and somebody who has to take on a lot of double teams. I got a guy sitting to my left here who knows what the life of a nose guard is like.
It's not always easy, not always fun, but
it's not always easy. It's not always fun, and it's never glamorous.
Never.
Very rarely talked about.
That's a blown assignment.
Yeah, you can talk about it a little bit there. But the nose guards are some of my favorite people in the program, and guys like Ramel Meekins when I first got here, and then he passed it down to a guy by the name of Scott Vallone, a guy by the name of Eric LeGrand, and now a guy by the name of Kenny Kirksey and Darrell Stevenson who are playing it now, and maybe being a former line coach, centers and nose guards, I've always enjoyed being around them.
A guy in his first full year is starting, Quentin Gauze.
He's doing an excellent job for us, and Quentin is somebody who, really is a physical football player and is well suited to the style of football we're seeing in the Big Ten each week.
The shift between Kevin Snyder and Steve Longa, how has that worked out? You made the change when you flipped them in preseason.
I think it's worked out well. I think ultimately it's going to be the right place for both those players. I think we'll see that as we go forward with Steve. We're coming off 2 games where we know we need to play better. So your questions are a little bit more big picture than they are specifically about the last 2 games.
Yeah.
And I feel like when we've had success, those 2 guys are in the right place. And going forward now to this game this week, really everybody on the team, not the defense, not the offense, not the special teams, everybody on the team needs to play a little bit better. The coaches need to coach a little bit better. Everybody can be a little bit more detailed in what we're doing. And when we do that, we're going to have great success.
I wanted to ask you one more player, someone I got to play with, Garif Clashing. He's had a little bit up and down career. What do you see from him now in his 5th to final year, I believe, or he might have one more. Who knows?
Yeah,
he finds a way. He finds a way to get.
We think it's his 5th year. If it's 6th, we're not going to tell you that. But Garif is the old man of the secondary.
Yeah.
He is the experience of the secondary. And this is what I tell you about Garif. He's playing his best football, and that's good because we need him to. And every week he's matching up against really good players. But Garif is having a great senior year, and he's playing the best football of his career right now, which is good for us.
And just to flip 1 or 2 on offense real quick, we talked about a few already. Tyler Croft, fans have not seen him as much just from the standpoint that the numbers aren't huge this season, but what have you seen from him this year?
Tyler's done a really good job for us this year, and Tyler's a better blocker than he's ever been. He's doing an excellent job at tight end, and I know people don't think that because statistically he doesn't have what he's had in the past in terms of receptions and yards, but I don't judge it like that because for a guy like that at tight end, it has to be the right situation for him to get the ball. And when it is, he catches it very well. He makes yards after the catch. He's a very, very valuable guy in our offense. And I'm telling you, part of the reason Leonte's got so many touches and Andrew Cecili's made a couple big plays and John Simmons has had some catches is because Tyler Croft is in the middle.
How about Caleb Johnson?
Caleb's doing a good job. I think Caleb's another senior who's playing his best football. And, he's played a lot of football here. He's been starting in games since his freshman year. Somebody that I had a chance to recruit down in Jacksonville with Mama Keisha and his 2 younger brothers. And it's been great for me to be able to watch him. I remember going every week, going down to Jacksonville, going to the high school, talking to the coaches, talking to the people at the school, staying for wrestling practice, going back to the house at night. And now to see him as a senior playing his best football, it's really been enjoyable for me.
Coach, shame on me. I've made our guy who's here each and every week wait longer than perhaps he really deserves to. Scott, what's up?
I know this. If anybody is pumped up about homecoming, it's this guy right here.
Definitely.
I can't believe it's been almost a month since I've been in my seat in the student section. It's nuts, but looking forward to getting back out there.
What's going on, Scott?
My question's about Laviano. Obviously, we're hoping Gary's healthy and we can see him there on Saturday, but in the event he's not, we saw Laviano with that big run Saturday against Nebraska. Do you think we could see more plays like that? And if so, could that open up the playbook a little more than we're used to seeing?
You know, it's something that I think Ralph coaches probably more than the other coordinators I've worked with, because at times this year you've seen Gary pull the ball down and run and get some third down conversions for us. So, you know, would you see more of it? I don't know. We want him. Chris got a very talented arm, so when he's out there at quarterback, we want him to throw the ball first. But part of being a good decision maker is being able to go 1, 2, 3. Okay, I don't have it. Let me run and make a positive play. Sometimes it might be 2 yards, get out of bounds. Sometimes it's bigger than that, like we saw last week.
Awesome. All right. See you guys Saturday. Can't wait.
All right. I know you'll be there early.
Always. In my seat early. Can't wait. See you there.
I like that.
Good stuff, Scott. We'll step aside. We've got more to do as Rutgers prepares for Wisconsin this coming Saturday. Stay with us. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
Looking for a place to watch all of the Rutgers football action as they head into the Big Ten? Enjoy the games with fellow Scarlet Knights fans at these Rutgers Athletics official watch party locations. New York City's Brother Jimmy's Barbecue, Hoboken's Cadillac Cantina, Tom's River's McIntyre's Pub, New Brunswick's Mike's Courtside Sports Bar and Grill, and Quaker Steak and Lube's 3 locations in Edison, Brick, and Powhatan.
What's up, Rutgers? Y'all ready for some football? Brother Jimmy's in New Brunswick is your headquarters for Scarlet Knight football, as well as your home for the Jets, Giants, and all your favorite NFL teams. With over 30 HD TVs, we serve up all of NFL action on Sunday and Monday nights, with amazing food and drink specials all game long. So come on down to Brother Jimmy's and put some South in your mouth. For reservations and event information, visit us at BrotherJimmy's.com. Brother Jimmy's Barbecue, located at 5 Easton Avenue, New Brunswick, New Jersey. See y'all soon.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network. In 2014,
It is caught at the goal line!
the Scarlet Knights are thinking
A touchdown for the Scarlet Knights!
big.
Third touchdown of the day.
Same tradition, new home.
Intercepted! The Scarlet Knights have the pick!
Big Ten football.
Rutgers ball, and this one is over!
Listen all season long on your home for Scarlet Knights football. The Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
Did you know that Bill Rasmussen, the founder of ESPN, earned his MBA at Rutgers? With the #1 public MBA in the New York metropolitan area, according to U.S. News, professionals come to Rutgers to enhance their careers without being saddled with the huge debt that comes with attending a private business school. Rutgers Executive Education provides access to the top minds in their fields: digital marketing, social media, healthcare management, entrepreneurship, and much more. In class, online, or at your company. Learn more at business.rutgers.edu/executive education.
Back live at Brother Jimmy's downtown New Brunswick. It is this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show. Chris Carlin, Eric LeGrand, and the head coach of the Scarlet Knights, Kyle Flood. Hey, Scarlet Knight fans, this week's football broadcast is available on TuneIn, ScarletKnights.com, and on 1450 WCTC in New Brunswick, 6:10 a.m. down in Philadelphia, WIP, and 7:10 a.m. WOR. Up in New York City. Select games are also available on SiriusXM satellite radio. There is no reason to miss your favorite team on game days, no matter where you are, so be sure to listen. Coach, an important question that we have not gotten to yet, just a few days away from Halloween, what will the Flood children be going as this year?
Well, this is highly confidential information here. I don't know if we want to divulge this on the radio show, but you know, we'll start with the youngest. You know, Joseph. He's yet to have a haircut.
I like it. Let it grow.
Yeah, we're letting it grow. We can figure he'd like a blonde Eric LeGrand. And, the whole thing was being targeted towards the Tarzan costume. Ooh. But Joseph has vetoed the Tarzan costume.
Really?
Yes, he has vetoed the Tarzan costume.
Put the kibosh on.
He has decided, I believe today, and I can't tell you it's a final decision because we've got to leave some suspense there, but we believe he is going with the Blues Clues costume.
Really?
Yes. Oh. Yes, he is
Now,
discarded Tarzan.
But will the hair tie in with the Blues Clues costume?
We're going to have to cover it. We're going to have to get a skull cap or something. Maybe see if Coos will give us something. See if we get something out of the equipment room. So that's what he's going with. Now, my daughter, Isabella, very, very interesting selection, something that I would never have suspected and never would have suspected that somebody her age, a 10-year-old, would actually think of being this, because I didn't realize young people knew who this person was. But she's a dancer. She does some gymnastics. She happens to be fairly flexible and has decided that she wants to be Gumby.
Really?
Gumby.
That was the show, Coach.
Very shocking.
Gumby.
I was very shocked.
That was
very
the show back in the day.
Now she does have a friend, Maureen, who will also be Gumby. So there's actually going to be twin Gumbies.
Twin Gumbies.
In New Jersey. So if you see two Gumbies, you're not hallucinating.
Controversy.
They're just trick-or-treaters.
Controversy.
Now, my son Kyle, he has probably the most interesting costume of them all that he's decided. Because he has decided that he wants to be Kyle Flood Sr. for Halloween.
Oh, really?
Which was a very interesting idea, and one that I did not expect until I spoke to Coach Friesian, who told me that one of his children did the same thing at one point. So apparently this is not a first in the coaching profession, but I will make sure he has everything in hand, including something to write on.
Right.
Because I know that's a source of controversy publicly. But we'll make sure he has something to write on, and he'll be well prepared to mark down everything he gets at every house.
Will he have a play sheet?
He'll have a play call sheet as well.
Headphones?
Well, we're going to have to see about the headphones. That's a good point right there. That's a good point.
You gotta have the. I mean,
I think he needs the headset.
Well, yeah. I mean,
We got to get him the headset.
We got to get him a headset. All right.
The bobblehead has the headset.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah. That's a fair point.
All right. Good enough.
All right, he'll have a headset. My wife said headset, so we're going to have a headset.
E, what was your go-to?
My go-to went back in the day.
Yeah.
I was always the scream mask. You know, when you put on the scream mask, you pump the heart and the blood would come out the scream mask. That was my favorite. I used to want to be that every year when I was young.
We have another question from a gentleman here in
right.
attendance tonight. Sir, what's your name? Where are you from?
Yeah, my name is Marshall Wright. I'm from Shrewsbury, New Jersey.
Marshall, what was your go-to costume?
My go-to costume?
Yeah.
You're looking at it. I had a lot of good costumes over the years, but none recently.
Solid.
So first I want to thank you for getting us to the point this year where my prediction for the season is about to become true, that we're going to have a winning season.
I like that.
And a lot of people gave me grief for that, but I said, no, you haven't watched this team. They're a good team. So my question is, over the last couple of weeks, we got beat at the line of scrimmage. That's what led to a lot of these big runs. And a lot of the sports guys said, hey, you know, the Big Ten guys are way bigger, and Rutgers is relying on speed. Are there any lessons that you've learned over these first couple of weeks that we can apply right away, and some of the things you're looking at long term that might be some changes?
I think every week there's no doubt as we're watching the film and we're trying to apply it to what we're seeing this upcoming week, we're tweaking the system. There's no doubt. And I think if people who really look at the last two games we've watched have seen that. The more general theme, I think, is this, and I've said this to the team, and I say it publicly because it's true. When you play teams at the highest level, and you're talking about two teams in the last two we've played, both in the top 16 in the country right now, very little margin for error. There's very little margin for error. Sometimes that mental error or that physical mistake, whatever it may be, ends up being a long run or a touchdown or ends up being a TFL on offense. So you had better be detailed and you had better be precise in what you're doing because the people you're playing, they're going to be that for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate the question, Marshall. This week for the Wisconsin game, something very special going on with the Special Olympics, and it's an organization that Rutgers has long had an affiliation with, and you've continued that since you took over. So fill us in a little bit.
Yeah, this is something that's really important to me. I have a family connection to the Special Olympics, and since becoming the head coach, I've had the opportunity to be the honorary head coach for the Special Olympics of New Jersey and to lead the team out for the USA Games, which we held right here in New Jersey, the opening ceremonies at the Prudential Center. You know, Mark Edison, who was the president of the Special Olympics New Jersey, has now moved on to the national office down in Washington, D.C., which is a tremendous opportunity for him and I think a tremendous resource for Special Olympians all over the country. But we're still going to have a strong connection with Rutgers football and the Special Olympics here in New Jersey. So what we're going to do is we're going to have 4 of their athletes are going to come out as our honorary captains: Manny Cajias, Jessica Fredetta, Logan Concepcion, and Victoria Ham. They'll be on hand on Saturday, and they'll walk out with the captains as our honorary captains because they are, anybody who's ever had any involvement in the Special Olympics knows that when you do it, there's no doubt that you get much more out of it than you could ever put into it.
I was going to ask you, Coach, the pleasure of hanging out with the Special Olympics. How does that make you feel? When you see the smiles on their faces, and even during the spring game when you let them go out there and play, score touchdowns. What kind of enjoyment does that bring to you?
It's a lot of fun for me. It really is, and I grew up with it, so it's something that I've had the good fortune of being around for a very long time. But I'll give you a specific example from the spring game, and we bring the Special Olympians out for the end of the game, and as a coach, we get to be down there, and you always say to yourself, don't take it for granted, the excitement that you get from being on that field. But to see some young Special Olympians that are out there for maybe the first and only time they'll ever be out there, and the joy and excitement on their faces, playing in that game, taking the picture after the game, it'll be with me the rest of my life.
You got the jacket on, Team New Jersey?
I do. I've got my jacket on. This was a gift from Team New Jersey to me, which I appreciated, and they actually had to go out and get it especially made because they are actually sponsored by somebody other than Nike, but they know that we're a Nike school, so they got me a Nike jacket, and I do appreciate that because now I can wear it in public.
Outstanding. Well, that should be terrific right before kickoff. Another reason to be there early on Saturday and in your seats. We got a few more minutes. We'll step aside and wrap things up. We'll talk a little bit more about the matchup with the Wisconsin Badgers on Saturday as the Kyle Flood Show continues live from Brother Jimmy's here in downtown New Brunswick. Once again, this is the Kyle Flood Show.
AT&T's best ever pricing for individuals and families lets you stay connected with the nation's most reliable 4G LTE network. It's easy. Just find the service plan that fits you best, including options up to 10 lines, so you can text, call, and download pretty much everywhere you go. AT&T, mobilizing your world.
AT&T is a proud partner of Rutgers Athletics.
Reliability claim based on nationwide carriers 4G LTE, 4G LTE not available everywhere.
The chalkboard. Sweeps, screens. Every play is drawn up and studied. When you can visualize a play, you can execute a play. The same is true in business. The more visibility you have in your supply chain, the better your business performs. That's why UPS lets you track what comes in and what goes out. Logistics is our game. See how we can help yours at thenewlogistics.com. UPS, official logistics partner of the NCAA.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
When you park with the parking spot, our friendly drivers get you from trunk to airport terminal faster. And the time you save parking with us, you can use to daydream about the road trip and leading a stadium of screaming fans in the biggest wave ever. Make a free reservation now at theparkingspot.com, and with the money you save, you'll be able to afford face paint remover. Free reservations now at theparkingspot.com. The Parking Spot, proud sponsor of Rutgers Athletics. We have airport parking covered.
Your chance to talk Rutgers football with the coach is the Kyle Flood Show.
What we have at Rutgers is a culture of people who love football.
Live from Brother Jimmy's on Easton Avenue in New Brunswick, Wednesday nights at 7:30 with Eric LeGrand and me, Chris Scarlett.
All right, this is a little suspicious right here. Who's this guy?
Back to the phones.
That's a good question.
I go to the games with my son. My son's 13.
We all know that you've been a class act during your time here.
The program is run the right way. Can't wait to get back on the field.
The Kyle Flood Show on the Rutgers IMG Sports Network. Few minutes left on this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show, live from Brother Jimmy's in downtown New Brunswick. Rutgers at 5-3 on the season, taking on the 5-2 Wisconsin Badgers. The Badgers come in off their big win over Maryland over the weekend. Their two losses have come against Northwestern on the road, and then early in the year they lost against LSU down in Houston 28-24. What else jumps out to you about Coach Anderson in that this appears to be a very similar team in all regards? We talked about the running backs, but really in all regards to what Barry Alvarez used to coach.
Absolutely. This is a team built in the image of the Wisconsin football program. There's no doubt. I think you see Coach Anderson's stamp on it on defense. He has a defensive background, and they're the number one total defense, number one scoring defense in the Big Ten. And I would tell you that the biggest reason, they have very good players, but the biggest reason is they play a great 11-man defense. I love how how well that unit plays together. And it's a tremendous challenge for us on offense because their scheme is very sound. They run to the ball very well, and they know how they fit. They know they're 111th on defense. So this is going to be a great challenge for us.
Can you take us behind the scenes into what goes into preparation for a team like this? You got to watch your game, of course. At first, when you have a away game, you can watch on the on the laptop, on the airplane. But how do you get into Wisconsin? What games you look at? Certain teams that match up like you guys do. How does that go into the whole process?
Yeah, you're exactly right. You try to you take their whole season, but you don't really use the whole season. You look at their opponent defenses, and you see which ones you think match what we do the best, so you can get an idea how they're going to attack it. And the same thing on offense. You try to find similar offensive systems to what we do to see how they're going to line up defensively. What do they like? What don't they like? What pressures do they like? But and then you go about the game plan of trying to create the best matchups that you can. But I think you do all those things, but ultimately it's about blocking and tackling. It's about blocking and tackling. And fundamentally, we've worked on it this week. We've gone good against good because there is some overlap offensively with what we do and what they do. So it's been good to be able to go ones versus ones in a game week at this point in the season. It's not always available to do it, and I think that's going to help us.
With that in mind, and in your preparation for a game like this, what exactly are you looking for this week? Coaches always say, we're looking to improve, we're looking to get better this week, but are there specifics outside of the blocking and tackling that you're looking for where you want this team to improve the most?
Well, last week I wanted to see us start a little bit better, and I thought we did. And I was pleased. I thought we started the game better. I thought that was a great step for our players and our program to go on the road and start the game a little bit better. It wasn't perfect. I don't expect us to be perfect, but I was pleased that we had improved from the week before. Now as we come back home into what's going to be a great environment on Saturday, I think it's the things we go back to are the things we go back to every week. Securing the football. This is a game where the turnover margin is going to matter. There's no doubt. Winning on special teams. Special teams has to be an advantage for us. There's no doubt. And then now we got to do a better job of disrupting the line of scrimmage on defense and winning the line of scrimmage on offense. So, people say football starts up front. I don't know if that's ever been more true than a game like this.
And on the offensive side, when you come into a game, you have your game plan, you go out there, you try to execute it. On defense, how is it hard? You have your game plan, but you have to kind of see what they're going to throw at you at first. How hard is it to adjust right there in the game to try to get a stop right away so you can get the ball to your offense?
No doubt. Just about every game, right? The first 10 to 15 plays, you get a real feel for what their game plan is and what they're going to do, and then we adjust from there. And I feel really good that our defensive coaches will do an excellent job of adjusting as we get a feel for what part of their system they want to use. I don't think we're going to see something we haven't seen, but we may see some stuff that they haven't necessarily emphasized in certain games.
Well, as always, the number one thing is to go 1-0 this week. So, Coach, good luck in that pursuit on homecoming weekend.
Time to get back to being 1-0. There's no doubt. I can't wait to get back to the stadium on Saturday to see the crowd. Hopefully everybody that's in Brother Jimmy's tonight is going to be there with us on Saturday. And I know a lot more than that are going to be there as well.
Well, there's no question. It'll be a big day when Rutgers on homecoming weekend hosts the University of Wisconsin. We will see you on Saturday.
I'll see you guys Saturday. Good luck, Coach.
All right, thank you.
We want to thank everybody involved with the broadcast tonight. Paul Schrager, our producer-engineer. Colin Osborne getting it done, along with Tim DeMartin on ScarletKnights.com. Rachel Bernstein as well. Jason Baum and Jimmy Gill, as always, from the Rutgers Sports Information Department. The game this week is a 12 noon kick, as we said, on ESPN and on the Rutgers IMG Sports Network. Our coverage will begin at 11 a.m. with Allstate Insurance countdown to kick off. For the coach, Kyle Flood and Eric LeGrand, I'm Chris Carlin. Thanks so much for joining us this week at Brother Jimmy's. No show next week with the bye week, but we will see you Saturday at High Point Solution Stadium. This has been the Kyle Flood Show.
You've been listening to the Kyle Flood Show, live from Brother Jimmy's on Easton Avenue in New Brunswick. The Kyle Flood Show has been brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world. Pepsi, live for now. UPS, to learn how UPS can put the power of logistics to work for you, visit thenewlogistics.com.